The final act of Season 2 has finally been released, and if you're here, you're probably wondering what's going to happen next. Are we going to get another season of Arcane? Or, if you've heard the rumors, 5 seasons and a movie? To find out what we're really getting, I gathered all the information that I could find to give you the most accurate story of what's actually happening right now. Later on, I'll give you what we'll actually get after Arcane Season 2. I feel like the fanbase needs to know this stuff because there's been a wave of misunderstandings across the fandom. It's so widespread that some are voicing out their concerns about Season 2, and for some, it may have even affected their experience of the second season. This is really just adding up to all the obstacles that the release of Arcane Season 2 had to hurdle, as they also had to handle a massive leak from 2 months ago. Now, the rumors of Arcane supposedly having 5 seasons all traces back to November 6, 2024, when Variety released an article named "Why Riot Games' Entertainment Aim Stalled Beyond Arcane, the Priciest Animated Series Ever." That was a pretty long article detailing what was happening internally with Riot Games during the span of the development of Arcane. In the article, it claimed that then CEO of Riot Games, Nicolas Laurent, wanted to make the entertainment company of the 21st century. It also claimed that the original plan of Riot was to make 5 seasons of Arcane, hence the $250 million budget. Now, the budget in itself sparked a lot of conversation among fans and casual viewers alike, but that's a different can of worms that we're going to tackle in another day. I don't know if the article is saying that the show was meant to have 5 seasons, but because of the big budget, they had to cancel the other 3. I mean, it never really says that directly, but I feel that for many, myself included, that's how we understood it. The article then says that the income of Arcane will never really cover the funds used in making and marketing it. So, as you can imagine, that's a big problem. The article then went on to say that there were a lot of logistical failures and that the overall inexperience of Riot Games may have contributed to them going over budget. There were also talks about a movie which was supposed to be headed by the Russo brothers, who were practically in charge of the Avengers franchise in Marvel. Their talks broke down and Riot had to pay $5 million to end the contract. Funnily enough, the Russo brothers and Riot Games never really denied any of this, so that just means that there was a planned movie or that there will be. This article is basically the source of 3 claims. First is that Arcane was supposed to be 5 seasons, the second is that the budget is the highest ever of all animated series, and the third is that there is or was a movie in the works. Due to the waves this article made, less than a week after, the creators of Arcane released a statement through TechRadar on November 2024. Linke and Alex Yee then explained that it was all a misunderstanding. He tells the story of how when they were pitching the show, Nicolas Laurent pulled him aside joking that they've greenlit the show for 5 seasons. They go on to clarify that it was a joke meant to show how invested the company was with their vision. Both of them make it clear that the show was only ever made to be 2 seasons. However, they also made it extra clear that they had plans on expanding the story of Arcane even further. More on that later. This has been pretty much what they've been saying for years now, especially with the release of Bridging the Rift. Now, does this mean that it reflects the whole story? Well, much like the show itself, business is pretty complex and the whole truth of the matter doesn't necessarily come out 100%. You would think that it should be case closed by then, right? But remember the leaks? Apparently, while only Act 1 of the second season was released at the time, those who watched the leaks have already been raising concerns about how the second season felt rushed and that the pacing was too fast. As of my recording, all 3 acts of Season 2 have been released, so while I didn't watch the leaks, I'm pretty much caught up and now I understand why they raised those concerns. In fact, the fanbase is pretty split on the reception of Season 2, and while the core of it is at the pacing, there are 2 other aspects that have come up: info dumping or exposition, and out-of-place storylines. Also, those 2 aren't mutually exclusive. Now, there's this whole story arc for Mel. She gets kidnapped by the Black Rose and is held against her will in kind of a pit. This in itself wasn't that bad for the story, but then we are introduced to her brother Kino. Now, this is where the issue of info dumping comes up. As they're trapped in the pit, Kino then begins explaining everything about the history of Ambessa Medarda and her involvement with the Black Rose. He even explains or leads Mel to discover that she is a mage. It's later revealed that Kino was actually LeBlanc, the head of the Black Rose. She kidnapped Mel to awaken her magic and make her join them. Now, what happens after? Well, Mel just casually takes a ship back to Piltover, and that's it. I have to say that this particular storyline did feel like it was shoehorned in, and it was kind of like disconnected with the whole story. But that isn't the only thing that fans are bringing up. The second example that the majority cites is the attack on the Chem Barons. To me, I understand both sides. I like how the show was actually very creative about it, where they used a music video to illustrate how the raids went about. However, many felt that the scenes were too rushed and that they could have explored more of the world of the Chem Barons and Zone itself. There's this element that they introduced in the sequence. It's a smoke called the Grey. A lot of people, myself included, misinterpreted what it was, and I even made a theory video about it. I personally felt that it was underutilized, but for the fan base, their main concern was that it wasn't made clear what was happening with the Chem Barons. You see, the Chem Barons were being pitted against each other by Caitlyn's strike force. It's a point that I feel wasn't properly illustrated through the music video. So, by the time the Chem Barons were dealt with, a lot of people felt that it was either too fast or they were just lost at what was happening. For both of these issues, a lot felt that they could have used more time to properly flesh out that part of the story. Like I said, this difference in opinion is very common in the fanbase, and there are many fans arguing about this in social media. But what do the creators of Arcane think about all of this? Christian Link, the showrunner and co-creator of Arcane, actually went on a live stream with YouTuber Necrit to address this. This is what he says. It's good that there's a critical view on things. We really try to pay attention. Like, we love League, we love these characters, we want to tell you stories that we want to see, and so in order to succeed, we need to listen to our audience. But we also need to have a point of view. We need to have a vision. We need to take risks. We need to be bold, and so it's like a delicate balance. The way I take it is that he's taking in all the criticisms and he's using that to balance out the story in the future. I also take it as him validating all the criticisms of the fans for the second season. In a Tech Radar article published on November 26, 2024, they also quoted Christian Link saying, "I understand them. I also respect people who feel that way. We need to listen and learn from it." All of which is fair. During the interview with Necrit, he mentions that he wanted League stories to stand with giants like Game of Thrones, House of Dragons, Star Wars, and of course, Marvel. To be able to stand out though, that's when quality control comes in, and that involves listening to criticism. What does this all mean for the future of Arcane or Arcane-based stories? In a Tech Radar article published on November 22, 2024, showrunner Christian Link made it clear that productions haven't started on anything yet. They are mainly developing scripts, and from what I understand, they're mostly at the beginning stages of production. But don't let that get you down. Another Games Radar article had links saying, "But yeah, it takes time. Depending on if it's a series or a movie, we're exploring both in many directions. A lot of it comes down to finding the right people, the right vision, the right idea, the right story. That'll take years, and once we have the confidence that something's happening, we'll talk more about it." On Necrit's livestream, Christian Link revealed that they are now working on shows and movies based on 3 regions, namely Noxus, Ionia, and Demacia, which I actually made a theory video on trying to predict where they were going to go next, and you can see it right here if you want to. Peace, and have a great day.